Hello, greetings everyone. Welcome. This is United States of Africa, and we are streaming live on United States of Africa page, streaming on our Twitter handle, streaming also on our YouTube, and also on LinkedIn Live. Today, Africa is celebrating the Day of the African Child, and this is a very significant day that we are celebrating to commemorate the African children that rose against the apartheid regime in 1976 and protested for their right to be taught in their own indigenous languages. And they are also rejecting or they are rejecting inferior education that was being offered to Black Africans by white minority colonial regime. And the result of the protest left more than 100 people dead, and thousands were injured as the apartheid regime shot dead the South African indigenous students that were protesting. When I talk, I say indigenous students, I mean the Black South Africans who are the natives in South Africa. So this is a reminder that the struggle for African children to have access to education has been a continuous struggle. They protested against being taught using foreign languages, and they also protested why African indigenous languages were being ignored. But today, 30 years later, after the charter on protection and welfare of African children was adopted, we are still seeing millions of children who do not have access to education. They do not have access to healthcare. We are also seeing the rise of child labor, child marriages, and this is a wake-up call for African countries to implement this charter and make sure that the African children have access to the right quality education, and they should have the right to be taught in their indigenous languages. Because after independence, many African countries continue to exalt these foreign languages, and this has had a very disastrous impact on Africans. And you'll see Africans treasuring those who speak foreign languages, and looking down upon those who speak indigenous languages. We need to be proud of our culture, be proud of our heritage, and prioritize the development of the African child, equip the African children with the right skills, tap into their talents, and ensure that we create an enabling environment for our children to thrive. We also need to ensure that our children are not trafficked, and that they are not abused after being adopted. There is need for the African children to be safeguarded. And if we don't protect our children, then we are not going to have Africa tomorrow, because these are the future of Africa. And we need to arm them with the necessary skills that will make them compete with the rest of the children around the world. So this is a very important day for the African child. We need to ensure that the African children have access to quality education. They have access to quality housing, and we also need to eradicate domestic violence against children and take action to end any form of violence against children, because our children are our future, and these are the future leaders. We need to nurture them so that they grow in embracing African values, loving their indigenous languages, loving their African identity, and appreciating who they are. We need to teach our children the true history of Africa, so that they do not grow up and then embrace the colonial narrative, which continues to downplay the achievements of Africa, and basically tries to downgrade Africa and make Africa appear as if we don't have a history yet. There can never be world history without African history, and in essence, the history of Africa is world history. This kind of education is what our children need. They need to be proud of the color of their skins. They need to be proud of the texture of their hair. They also need to embrace responsibilities at an early age, so that they grow to be responsible children. I can see Charles, you're saying United Africa. We must protect our children. You're right. Our children have to be protected, because they are our future, and the future of Africa depends on how well we equip our children to grow with a mindset that empowers them to solve the challenges that Africa is facing now. I'm going to play a video from one of members who has submitted, so that I can also bring another aspect of it. You can submit your messages, and we can share your messages of the Day of the African Child. I wish every child in Africa a very happy International Day of the African Child, and I encourage the African children to love who they are, to be proud of being an African, and be proud of their African ancestry, be proud of their history, and also be proud of their indigenous languages. In education sector, there's still a lot of there's still a lot of colonial mentality, which puts foreign languages above indigenous languages. I call upon African schools to stop punishing African children who speak their indigenous languages in schools. They have a right to express themselves in the indigenous languages, and there is need for the education system to be revised so that it can ensure that African students can learn and or can acquire education using their indigenous languages, because we have to be proud of our languages and be proud of our African heritage.
As we mark the Day of an African Child, we as a family, as a community, policymakers, leaders, and professionals, we join hands to promote an African child. 30 years after adoption of the Charter, accelerating the implementation of the Agenda 2040, Fit for an African Child, is by prioritizing the needs of an African child, and also building a foundation that will fit an African child in Africa and the world. Africa has the youngest generation. Therefore, it has an opportunity and a potential to lead the world to change. A strong, united Africa with a clear policy focus will promote an African child. Happy International Day of an African Child. It's me, Felicitas, from Tanzania.